AyinBase 18. Yesterday we discussed, I think quite extensively, the principle of the oil when it's mislabish in a keli assumes the qualities of the keli. In other words, when that occurs, the pe'ula, the function of the keli, is not independently motivated by the earth, so the keli would do it by recognizing what, so to speak, what would be appropriate according to the oil. But the oil is actually involved in the level of the keli. It's translated on the keli level. Like we used the mashal yesterday, from eating in a certain way, this is the entire human oil, human self-respect, human principle that we discussed many times, is translated on the keli level, which is much lower than the essence of this oil. We explained, this is something which was the first time we ever mentioned this, that we did explain in the past that when we take a piece of food, a fruit to eat, when we make a bracha beire priho eitz, we mean to say literally that Hashem is now creating the fruit, but the fruit has already been created before. How do we make beire priho eitz, which is in present tense? So we explained that we, as humans, because of our special status in the world, we do not partake of the world per se. We partake of that which God gives us to partake of. We have a direct relationship only to God, not to the world, even though we're partaking from the world. But God created the world for our benefit, for our use. Which are beire priho eitz. Now that I'm holding this in my hand, now God is creating it for me to eat. Prior to that, it was a fruit in the world, it has nothing to do with me. It's suitable for the animals, not for me. So yesterday we discussed a similar inyan. When you take a loaf of bread, the loaf of bread is not meant for human consumption. It's meant to be a source for human consumption, but this is not the consumption. Consumption means when it's a serving, when it's served for him to eat. This is cut to size that is a meal size, meant for him to eat. That's when he first begins to relate to it. So when he starts eating from the loaf, he is insulting his human stature.
So we make a bracha on the loaf.
What?
We make a bracha on the loaf.
He can make a bracha on the loaf, but it does not have the same implication. So there he is making a bracha on the loaf. He is making a bracha that God created a loaf of bread, not that God served him a loaf of bread. That's a completely different concept. The truth is, there's a halakha question whether you can make a bracha on the loaf. The halacha is that the piece of bread that you're going to eat, you have to hold in your hand and make a bracha on it.
Even though Shabbos we'd have to make on a whole.
Shabbos because of the special reason. On two levels, it's a completely different thing. And then we said further, so this is where the keli has an effect on the oil. The oil is really be slapshot again. It remains oil. We have to remember that it remains oil, but the oil is now at that level of the keli level. And the same thing at the end of that top line, the oil has an effect on the keli, as we discussed also quite extensively yesterday, that the keli is refined as a result of being activated and of being a keli for the oil. As manifest in many technical functions. V'hainu, okay, in the middle of the second line from the top. V'hainu, which means to tell us, shehei margishim zeh zeh, that they sense one another. The oil and the keli sense one another. And I'm going to read inside. This is we already discussed yesterday, but this is a phenomenal statement. Margishim zeh zeh, they sense one another. Shehoir margishes hakeli, that the oil senses the keli liyes kameiha, to be like the keli. V'hakeli margishes es hoir, and the keli senses the oil lihisdaches lifnei von hoir, to be refined according to the manner of the oil. This is a further emphasis, a further extreme point in this. This Inyan that the oil becomes like the keli is not merely because logically we are training it to accommodate the keli, but the oil actually senses the keli. And the reverse is also true. The keli senses the oil. This Inyan that the oil senses the keli, and the keli, particularly the keli senses the oil, immediately reveals to us the principle we discussed yesterday, that both the oil and like in a human being, for example, the oil and the keli are both representative of the nefesh, of the rotzen ha-nefesh. The reason that a human being has two hands is not an afterthought, that he has to do certain things that his seichel direction to do. This is how the human being is thought of in the nefesh, at the highest levels of the nefesh, in the rotzen ha-nefesh. And then that rotzen is translated, is reduced to the level where it can be identified. What's in this rotzen? Why does it want to have two hands? That comes into in the seichel. And from the seichel it comes into midas. The right hand, the left hand, and so forth. That original source, that mitzvah, the nefesh, the human being has this structure, that remains, that follows throughout the entire human structure, process. So that when a person writes with his hands or eats, you cannot say his hand is eating, his feeding, his hand is writing. It's him writing. It is his pashas harotzin through the koyach ha-seichel into the hand. And this is why the hand is obedient to the seichel, because the hand is also enlivened by the rotzen, the same way as the seichel itself. In other words, even though the hand has a very specific function, Very specific function is not a correct statement, but relative to seichel, to rotzen, it is specific. It has a specific function. That specific function is reflective, is there because the rotzen hanefesh wants it. That's why the specific function is there. It is not originated in the hand. It originates in the rotzen hanefesh. He pointed this out on a more tangible level. I think it's quite clear, but it's a phenomenal thing to realize this. And he said when a person has a cut in his finger, the finger will heal. And the healing process goes all the way down to the most fundamental, the physical and so forth, the molecule splitting and so forth. But that is not, that initiates the healing process. And that is not what the healing process ultimately manifests. Because the healing process recreates the finger in its original form, where it completely eliminates the possibility of there being any kind of sign of the cut. Because it recreates it from scratch. Because he thinks the chayz hanefesh, and the chayz, and rotzen hanefesh says, here's how you used to be supposed to be. So it knows how to be. In other words, it's not because there's a cut. How do you cause the cut? If you were going to close the cut, there's going to be a scar. It's not causing the cut. It's recreating the finger the way it would be. And I think the biggest evidence of that is, which really boggles the mind, is the fingerprint. Fingerprint is not even a tangible physical entity. And fingerprint is unique in every person. Because this nefesh is reflected in this fingerprint, and this is how the fingerprint is recreated. This is what he says over here. The oir is markish as a keli. The oil senses the keli, senses the hand, for example. The oil senses the hand. The hand is able, the hand can be directed to right. But the oil hanefesh senses the hand. Let's understand what that means in practical terms. Where do we see this? When a person needs to go from point A to point B, he does not then look around and say, okay, what are the means by which I can go from here to there? My hands, my feet, my head, how do I go there? And then he says, oh, my feet are most suitable for that. Let me choose my feet. Let me try my hands. Clearly, that's not the way it works. He walks with his feet because he senses what the feet are made for. What the feet are. So that the kei ha'halicha is mislabish in the feet to start with before it's being tested. It's not a discovery. Which means that the oil is margish as a kei. There's interchange of information between them. And similarly, keli is margish as a oil. The keli senses the oil, is to be refined according to the oil. Like we said, the oil that's mislabish in the hand, for example, could be many different levels. It could be in writing, it can be in banging a nail, and it can be in making a fine drawing. In all of these instances, there is a different kind of message, a different kind of correlationship between the keli and the oir. They sense one another. I was one talking to an artist. He's taking courses, and I said, "What does it mean you take courses in art? Can you actually learn art?" He says, "Look, the art course can teach you how to replicate, how to copy a picture, or how to even to capture an object on paper, but it cannot teach you art. That is a chush that you have mitzad nefesh. Somebody who learns art from training will never be an artist in the full sense of the word. He can be a good graphic artist,
craftsman,
but not an artist. Okay.
Sometimes they make better teachers.
Was that?
If they learn as not from an artist, but they learn from a technical. They understand the whole process.
They're teaching also to non-artists, because an artist will not be able to tolerate that. This is in general the principle of Milo Mato, of upper and lower, higher and lower, that is identifiable, that can be found in Esesfirat Atzilus. In the 10 spheres of Atzilus. Okay, remember what we are aiming at is to understand how there are different madrigas in the oir. Oir is Kodesh, which means that oir has an element of is atzmi, no matter where it is, and yet there are madrigas in it. Kodesh, 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 3 madrigas in general. So it says this is the malo mata sheyesh b'esesfirat atzilus, the hainu, the hainu. What is this exposes? What does this tell us about the different madrigas in the Esesfiras Atzilus? It means bebechinas gilui ha'oir, that the different madrigas is the bebechinas gilui ha'oir, in the aspect of the gilui ha'oir, of the manifestation of the message coming from the oir. Masha meir begilui yoiser. That Gili Hoyer, different madrigas in Hoyer means different madrigas of Gili Hoyer. To what extent the Hoyer is Begili. Vehu, and thus this is the way this is to be under. This is the way we see it. The Bekele El Yeino, in a higher Keli, Vedako Yoiser, and a more refined Keli, Meir Hoyer Begili Yoiser. There the oil shines with greater intensity and greater clarity.
Where are we, Rabbi?
Fifth line.
Huh?
5th line.
Oh, okay.
Towards the end.
At the end of the fifth line. Meir ho'eh begili yoser. There the oil shines with greater clarity and greater intensity. Let me translate these words before we go on. Just as in the case of the kelim and the example that we used in the hands, at first glance we don't see oir, we see kelim. I trained my hand to be able to do this, and I do it. It's only essentially the hand has what's called koyach hatnua. It has the koyach hatnua, koyach of movement. To write an aleph, to write a Beis, and to write it this way or that way is all depending on how I move my hands. So it's all koyach hatnu. But as we were discussing it, we realized that does not capture the real thing. That there is an oir in the Slavish, in this koyach hatnu, that is called koyach haksiva, or koyach the drawing. I don't know what the term is. This is within the koyach hatnu. It's a much refined element, and there you see the oir hanefesh. So thus, in the Gilui HaOir, there is a big difference in the type of keli and what type of Gilui it is. Mashemei beGilui Yesed, how much more oir is beGilui, that defines the madrege of that oir, the higher and lower. And that is bekeli elgeni v'dako Yesed, a higher and refined keli, meir ha'oir beGilui. There the oir is more beGilui Yesed. Again, as I explained, there the oil is more evident rather than in keli. In as we're going to say, in the seichel, one will never mistake and say it's the brain that understands. There is seichel in the brain. There's sensitivity. It's not the keli. Surely the keli is the place where that is revealed. And the keli has to be refined. But there you clearly see that there is a sensitivity. In the hand, we needed to focus in and see, yes, there also there is this oil.
What do we mean when we say here that the keli has to be refined? How we just put that in when we're talking about the brain and the heart?
What?
We just inserted, when we're talking about the brain and the heart and different revelations of earth, we said the kli has to be refined. So I'm wondering, how does that fit in with the brain and the heart?
The brain also has to be refined. And the heart has to be refined. And the hand has to be refined. Every keli can be refined.
More revealed how it's coming from the nefesh?
More refined, more suited to accept a finer element of the oil.
You're talking about learning a skill?
Uh-huh.
You're talking about learning a skill?
No, learning a skill is also a refinement. But we are talking not a skill. A skill is identified that is more related to the keli.
Okay, well, that, I mean... So
You know, you were here this morning. Yesterday.
Yeah. I don't remember.
Okay, so you review it. A skill is more related to the keli. Oil is related to the finer element, to the life, to the living element. Like in the case of the art, it is to render a piece of art that touches on life rather than on form. That's not a skill.
But I'm talking about the refining the keli. Is that?
Find the keli that the keli should be sensitive to that aspect of the oil. You're an artist, you know.
Well.
All right, let's not go back there. We'll if need be, we'll review it. It's all over here. It's all recorded from yesterday. I'm surprised you should ask, because this was aimed at you yesterday, the whole class. Help me down. Oh, this is it. All right, let's go there. A higher keli, there is more oil begilui. Ukmoi b'chochma, as in the example, for example, chochma. Shahakeli hi b'dakus ma'oy, where the keli is an extreme refinement. Kinoida. I just know. What means the keli is bedakas ma'oid. The brain is a physical nerve, a physical presence. A physical presence normally is tangible. If you put your hand on this table, on top of the tablecloth, you feel right away there's certain contours, there's certain the material from which it was made. But if this were made, but this is like one time we showed a very fine, a very thin plastic cover. That when you put your hand on it, you don't feel anything. It's almost intangible. It is tangible, but it does not, so to speak, interfere with the sensitivity of the finger. You're sensitive to it only because you have a finer sensitivity, like sensitive to sense the paper or to sense the tablecloth. Completely different sensitivity. And for that you need a finer keli. The same as in Chochmah. Chochmah is a keli dakomayoid. The physical structure, the physical ingredient, makeup of the brain is more refined, is less physical and less coarse than any other part of the body. This is why the brain is sensitive to the finest elements of the nefesh, the intangible aspect of the nefesh, emunah, which has no tangibility at all, and that is sense in the brain. That's what it says. So there, being that the keli is b'dakas ma'id, meir so ha'oir meir shom begilui oir rav. So the oir shines there begilui oir rav with tremendous amount of clarity, of revelation, to the extent that in the brain one does not question, is this true, is this so? He sees that this is the truth of it immediately, because the oil is meir begilui oir rav. This is what Chochmah is. We mentioned recently that there is even modern Chochmah, the koyach haidah, which is even does not have any tangible element. So here we see the difference in different madregas of oil, not in madregas of the oil, madregas of the gilui of the oil. The oil can be nisgala in different at different levels depending on the case. And here's where we are going to interrupt.
All right.
Have a great day.
Very good.